Joseph Bennett, welcome to the Bright Shiny Podcast.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Thank you for inviting me to this space, and thank you for creating this space for us. I so appreciate you, Cheri.
And as I do you. So we have been talking about money, the bright, shiny object of money over this month. It's tax month here in the US of A, and all those things around money. And so I thought that we would get into that a little bit here and talk about it, because I know that you have some thoughts around it. And one of the things that you shared, and we were talking back and forth in email, is how money, that debt and the lack of it can interfere with our freedom.
Oh, yeah.
And that is such a juicy thought to think about. And so maybe let's start there and how, you feel that it makes us a little bit powerless.
Absolutely. Thank you. So it's not a thought unique to me. So I learned it from people whose shoulders I am standing on. And that is that debt is the big dream killer. And moments before I got on this podcast with you, I was in class with the brilliant Andrew Simone, who wrote the Making Your Life as an Artist. And he talks about how capitalism is set up so that we stay in debt. That's how it was designed. That's the systemic problem. And we as human beings, we feel that it's a personal problem, like we did something wrong. So I first want to share with your listeners, Cheri, that we are not broken if we have debt. We are not broken if we don't know about investments or about compound interest or about how to get out of debt. That's not symbolic that we are debt. It just shows us where we can improve in our lives if we choose to. And I'm not saying we have to. I'm not here to prescribe that anybody is doing anything wrong or that they need to make a change, right?
And so tell us about your path a little bit. And so there is the artist within you that you have been on that path for a while. And did you find that affected you, and how? I mean, my son is an artist, and I know that it can be a tough road sometimes, just because the passion that I watch him with his work, and it doesn't always get returned with high yields sometimes.
It's a big question, my love. So yes, it affected me a lot when I very first started diving into this thing called art for the second time, because I had done it in high school, and I was a ballet dancer in high school, but that was a different life because I was still living at home. But then moving to Southern California and trying to make my life as an artist, as a young adult with all my own bills and all my own responsibilities, there was a lot of tossing and turning at night, and a lot of fear, and a lot of what if, and a lot of how do I figure this out. And there were times when I would practically say a novena. For those who are Catholic or recovering Catholics like myself, I would say a novena like, please let me sell a piece of art, a sculpture this week, so that I can pay my rent. And there were some tough times. And what I came to understand through hiring a coach, Leslie Neef, I talk about her a lot in my podcast and a lot in some podcasts I've been interviewing on. She really taught me that where I don't want to challenge. I was going to say the problem, and that wasn't the right word. Where the challenge was in these 3 inches right here. And for those who are just listening, not seeing a video of this, I'm pointing to my head, to the 3 inches above my eyebrows. And I follow the philosophy, change your story, change your life. And that has absolutely 180 degrees changed for me what's possible, and changed for me where I was fucking myself up or getting screwed up. And so that's what helped in my coaching with Leslie, and in the coaching that I do with others, is really looking at the story that we're telling ourselves. My art doesn't matter, they don't value me, this isn't important, this has already been said before. All of that can lead to a lot of insomnia. At least it did for me.
Well, and how do you feel as you know, we all are on this entrepreneurial journey, and as we age a little, what happens along the way? I was actually a podcast I did just a week or two ago. We talked about that, right? Is like one of the benefits of aging is the wisdom that we get along the way. And what do you feel has shifted for you as you've moved further into the journey?
It's wisdom that I got in book club from the delightful Savannah Washington. And she says, and this probably isn't unique to her, but I heard it again, or maybe for the first time. And she says, be happy in your own lane. Let's be happy in our own lane. So when I was in my teens and my 20s and my 30s and beyond, I was getting whiplash, Cheri, from looking to the left and to the right, and what are they doing, and how popular are they, how much artwork are they selling, how much money are they making, and that was freaking exhausting.
That comparison.
That comparison. So moving into my late 50s now, being able to be settled and to be happy in my own lane is priceless.
And you have even uprooted yourself from the US and you're living in the beautiful spot of I hope if I say this right, San Miguel Ruiz.
Nope.
Nope.
You got the first two words correctly. It's San Miguel de Allende.
Wow, where did I get that de Allende, which I get to come visit in October?
I know you're coming in October.
Yeah.
San Miguel de Allende. So it is a artist colony in the hills of central Mexico. So it's not on the coast at all. It's 4 hours north of Mexico City. It has been named the #1 city in the world several times since 2013, and maybe before then, but I wasn't aware of it before then, so I can't quote anything from that. And I love living here. And what I have noticed when speaking about money is that in the Mexican culture, it's not so much about what you do. That's not something that we ask Mexicans or even each other once you get embellished into or enrolled in the culture. You ask about a person's family. That is the first question that you ask them. How is your family? Do you have a family? Where are they? Have you seen them recently? Very late into the conversation would you bring in what you do for a living. And I did a piece
love
of
that. I've just spent time with my family over the Easter holiday, and you know, I have some little grandnephews and a niece that I just like, I love. I've been talking about them on social media just because they're so dang cute. Yeah, I love them. Yeah.
So what's the priority? Where's your focus? What are you spending time on? Where are your thoughts around money or your time, or how are you spending your time?
And did you to make the decision to move there? Was it a big decision? I mean, obviously it was a big decision, but did it take a lot of time? I mean, and you think about the money piece, right? You've got this investment in the United States. Now you've gone there. And I know so many, even more so lately, a lot of people are going, hey, maybe it's a good idea. What really gave you the courage? Because I would think you'd have to have some courage to say, hey, I'm going to, especially because you own property there now, right? And all of that.
So there were a couple of questions that you just presented. I'll try to.
Yes, please unpack it. I love
as we are aimed to do. So it wasn't a big decision in that there was a lot of talk back and forth and weighing pros and cons and consulting with my father-in-law, who was a genius man. It was more of what's important. And this was in 2009. So the economy had crashed. I was working in a career that was very privileged. So I was an interior designer. A lot of projects got canceled because people were watchful of their money in those years, more watchful of their money. And my husband, who was born and raised in Mexico City, He said, you know, there's this small artist colony down in Mexico that I traveled through once many years ago. Do you want to just go down for a month and check it out? And instead of sitting here worrying, right? Instead of
Mhm.
worrying about the money or the economy or our jobs or our careers, can we just take some time off and go and regroup in this beautiful community? Sure, I said. And so we drove down here with our two dogs at the time, and we never left.
Mm,
And that was 13 years ago.
wow.
So we went back to the US. We had a couple of houses. We sold the houses. We had 8 garage sales. We got rid of everything. And it wasn't, I hope this answers your question. It wasn't huge in that it was scary or what if or second guessing ourselves or doubting ourselves. That wasn't really part of the experience. It was more curiosity. And it was more like, hey, let's try this. We can always come back if we need to.
And it's interesting when you think about that piece is because life wasn't moving perfectly along. So like you said, what have I got to lose? It's already kind of messed up. So let's figure it out. Where sometimes we can get so much in a comfort zone that we don't. And do you think that you would ever leave at this point?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. You are there. It's your
No,
home.
thank you. I mean, I would leave if my health warranted it, like if I needed to go get a specific medical treatment somewhere that I could only get in the US. I guess I would leave for that. Or if there are environmental reasons, like, environments change, right?
Sure.
But we're
And
committed to being here.
how is money perceived? You talked about how people don't ask you what you do, but how is money? How do you feel like money is perceived differently?
Oh. So I started to mention this a few minutes ago, and then we got bright, shiny objects in our way.
Boom.
I had a client who was visiting here. She has since bought a house here, but she was talking about all the anxiety that she experiences because of trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Right.
And that struck me so symbolically, Cheri, because I actually ended up doing a piece of art called Keeping Up with the Joneses based on the conversation that I had with her. Because that is not a thing here. I mean, people have very nice homes that are directly attached to homes that you and I would consider not so very nice, right? And there's everything in between. And that comparison, that competition, maybe it's here on some non-conscious level that I'm not aware of, or that I'm just not engaged in those conversations with people. It's not like it is in the US where people pay attention to their zip codes, or I'm going to go here because of the schools that are here, or gated communities. It's not that.
Well, and it's interesting. I had a conversation with Meredith Grundy, who's our mutual friend and our fearless leader with our improv group. And
Confidently speaking, yes.
Exactly. And we were talking about the retreat. And I, of course, you keep hearing things about Mexico and this and that. And I'd asked her about like, what's the safety like? And she had shared, she said what she loved about the area, which she said she's been to a number of times, is that people just invite you into their homes, like the graciousness and the beauty of the homes. Like you would look outside and it would just seem like this little building, and you walk in and it's just whether there's a beautiful courtyard or whatever. And so the interior designer in you must love that part as well, of just the gorgeousness. Is that a word?
Yes, that is now a word. If it wasn't before, it is.
Of the architecture there.
I do. And I specifically love where we get to live. We didn't build this home. It's a 40-year-old property. And we have guests come and visit us from all over the world that come and stay at our retreat space. And getting to share this property, but also getting to like see the city through fresh eyes all the time. And people are constantly coming back, at the end of the day and saying, wow, have you seen this area? Did you go here? We went to the botanical gardens. We went on a hot air balloon ride. We went to the the log flumes, what do you call it? The water park. And so if people want to come and stay, they can come to sanmiguelretreats.com and book through
Miguel
there. We would
Retreats.
love to take care of them.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, I have to ask you, just
Yes.
because for those who are watching us on YouTube, you've got a couple of buddies behind you and would just love to know their names.
Oh, so there's three. You can
Oh,
probably
there's
only
three. I could just see
two.
two.
So
Right.
on this side, that's Luna de Queso, Cheese Moon. She was named after a deli here that we love, Luna de Queso.
Oh, what a
She was a
dog.
street dog. And that's Maya Grace. Maya. And
Maya.
she was a
She goes,
foster dog that we have been living with for many, many years now. And then Chester Blue was from the SPA. He's
Beautiful.
around here someplace.
And as a dog lover myself, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, you will get to meet them when you come.
Yeah. All right. So let me ask you this. What bright, shiny light gets you up most days?
Hmm. Can I just speak about the current? Because there's
Please.
so
Right.
many different
Yeah.
things that I'm like, oh, and that days is because I'm going to be teaching improv, or those days is because I'm going to be seeing Cheri at the Confidently Speaking. These days, it's a book that's coming to fruition. It's being released on April 21st. And, there's still some formatting and some PR work and some podcasts that I'm talking on. So that's what's getting me out of bed these days. But I'm one of those super lucky people. I'm a little bit Pollyanna-ish, that most days I'm super excited to get out of bed. Even if there's absolutely nothing, there usually is, but sometimes it's just getting up to go do my meditation and have a cup of tea.
I was just going to ask, do you have a morning routine that?
Absolutely. And
Beautiful.
mostly it's guided by the teachings and coachings of Mel Robbins, if you know her, the 5-second rule.
Of course.
So I tend to not ever, if I can, pick up my phone or a computer firsthand. I pick up a journal, a longhand, like writing with a pen journal, to do my morning pages. And I have my coffee. I spend time with the dogs. I have a meditation practice. And that's my morning, like quiet. There's no music playing. There's not a lot of conversation with my husband, Eli. It's writing, it's quiet, it's focused, it's brain dump. So
And
that's
and that's the thing that I think is so beautiful about each of us creating our own morning practice, because I do like sometimes a little music. Sometimes, I'm a little ADHD prone, very ADHD prone, I will say. And so sometimes I have a hard time just sitting there. So I have to find what's settling me in the moment. But I just don't let a day go by without that morning momentum practice, is what I call it. And sometimes I'm great with meditation. Sometimes I go out in the hot tub just because my muscles need, a little relaxation or whatever.
Yeah, I love that. And if I could share this with your listeners.
Please.
So sometimes, listeners, we're telling ourselves like, oh, I'm not a good meditator, or I skipped it today, so I'm off. So what happened this morning is there was a big storm here last night, a rainstorm. And thankfully, because the earth needs water desperately. And we have guests staying here with us in each of the spaces. So I needed to just go outside and dry off some cushions and put a fresh tablecloth out there so that, things were nice and neat for them, for a place to work. And that's what I was doing before I got to my journal and to my meditation. So what I told myself, and this might help your listeners, is cleaning up the outside and wiping things off. That was my meditation. So I was doing it quietly. I was doing it mindfully. I was doing it with a lot of care, because I love being a host to our guests. And I just think that small example might serve the listener in some way, knowing that even something that we do mindfully, and not getting distracted with bright, shiny objects, that too can be a meditation. So
Yeah.
I just thought
Yeah,
of
I
that.
agree. I agree. And lovingly and intentionally and
Yeah.
just being
Yeah.
in present in that.
Being present and not being like, rah, 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 rah,
I
rah,
gotta
I
do
don't
this
want to
because I
be
gotta get to
doing
this and I
this
gotta
because
get to
I'm
that.
supposed to be doing that thing over there. And this is
Yeah,
screwing
yeah,
up my
yeah. And I
morning.
look at
It's
my
like,
to-do list today and
yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Or getting bummed out that I have to do this. Right. Like of going, oh, great. Just one more thing to do. Right. You could come at that, but if you come at it like, okay, this is what I gotta do.
This is going to be my meditation. And
Yeah.
I'll approach it with I get to do this versus I have to do this.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book that's coming up. Your new baby. There's a gentleman here that was here for many years. He passed away sadly a few years ago, called Joe Saba here in the Denver area. And I will never forget when I wrote my first book that, I brought it and to this meeting and he said, "Let me see your baby." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I didn't have any children at the time." He goes, "Your book, that's your baby." And I will never forget that. And the preciousness of our book. So you have a new baby called When in Doubt. So please tell us about where this inspiration came from and a little bit about the book.
Thank you. So it does feel like a baby being birthed out into the world in the coming weeks. And the title is When in Doubt, nearly 400 funny, insightful, and inspiring ideas for what to do when you're in doubt. And there was one sleepless night where I was tossing and turning, and I had this flash of inspiration. And it was write a book for those times when we're in doubt. Because I think as human beings, that's kind of a torch song for some of us. It happens over and over and
Over
again
and
in
over.
in different ideas and different realities, really. So I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted to keep it really clear, like when in doubt, you can do this, or when in doubt, you can do that. So each page of the book, and for those listening to the audio, I'm holding up the book now. It's just one idea
Oh,
per
wow.
page.
Oh, wow.
And you can open it up to any page to get your inspiration or sit down with a cup of coffee and read the whole thing. And how it came to be is once I had the idea, after I got past a little bit of doubt about whether or not I should write this book, right? Because writing this book could be a bright, shiny object.
Mhm.
And the ideas just started coming and coming and coming and coming. And I was with pen and paper for about 5 days. It never left my side. It never left my nightstand. The ideas just kept coming and coming. When in doubt, do this. When in doubt, do this. And I wasn't editing. I wasn't saying, oh, that doesn't make sense or that won't work. Or, people will think I'm silly or stupid or too spiritual if I write that part. I just let it all flow through me. And within like 4 or 5 days, the book was there in its very rough form, right?
Mhm,
And then it
mhm.
took months of formatting and back and forth with my delightful VA and, publishing another book that I was working on. I wanted to finish that bright, shiny object before I put any energy into this. And my husband, Eli Hans, brilliant author and actor and playwright, he wrote the foreword to the piece, and it comes out soon. And it's all over the place in that some of them, some of the ideas feel more random than others. Some of them feel incredibly practical. When in doubt, get out of debt. When in doubt, use your credit card as a convenience, not a loan. When in doubt, say no.
Is it designed to give them your readers permission to have the doubt? Like what is it you want them to, what is like the number one thing you want readers to walk away with?
I've never been asked that question. The number one thing I want readers to walk away with is not getting stuck in doubt.
Mm.
So being able to find a glimmer of action or a glimmer of hope or a glimmer of, oh, I could do this, right? Because we can until now get stuck in doubt. We
Oh,
could spend a freaking lifetime
a whole
in doubt,
lifetime.
right?
Right. I mean,
So
yeah.
I don't know what the opposite of stuckness is. I don't know that word.
Unstuckness?
Unstuckness. I want people to get unstuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the intention for the book, is
I
to
love it.
help
And I,
people.
I love in some of the work that I'm doing around ADHD and working with entrepreneurs that that doubt does stop them. The procrastination steps in, and then it just becomes immobilizing. Like it can just freeze you so that you can't do anything. And so I love that and do you want, like, is this a good, like, journal prompt? Like, what do you see as far as, or just a prompt a day, or just whatever they need in the moment?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have
It,
no idea how the reader is going to absorb this or react to this or respond to this. But I do hope, as somebody who's been a life coach for almost 25 years, I do hope that it inspires.
inspires. I love that.
Yeah, because that doubt, that can strangle us sometimes, Cheri.
Hmm. Well, in my work as a business coach too, I mean, I just see it all the time where it just, again, that frozen piece where I can't, whether it's the doubt about the money or the, what will people think of me? Or, I mean, the list, as you came up with 400 things, is long.
The list is long, yeah. And to go back to being happy in your own lane, if we're stuck there in traffic, doubting ourselves and looking to the left and the right and behind us and in front of us, and those people seem to be doing okay, right? They're not in their doubt that we know of, because maybe they're not talking about it on a podcast or something. But we look at
Except
that
if
and
you
we're like,
get in a traffic jam, right? You get like these group of people, which I feel like has been happening in this country a lot. You get, not to get political, but you get around these gun laws, right? And we're in this traffic jam that nobody can get out of it because there's so much doubt swirling around. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts that we can have, is to start loosening up all this doubt of,
oh,
whether it's respect, because that's another piece, and the list goes on that too. But yeah, that's the
yeah.
vision I just had in my head, was the traffic jam, like, because you're not alone. Usually there's the guy next to you could be just as stuck as you are,
Yeah.
and yet
And
you're saying, oh, he's great, and he's
and that
not.
relates to money as well, right? To go
Mhm.
back to your theme for April,
Right.
we doubt how much we deserve to make. We doubt how much we can charge. We doubt, are we ever able to get out of debt? We doubt the conversations that we allow ourselves to have with our community, with our friends and our family. You know, how much do we talk about money and salary and debt and all of that? Those are really important conversations. And it is one of the last great taboos, versus who did you vote for in the last election? That's a big taboo that we're not allowed to talk about. And then, how much debt are you carrying around with you?
And the
Because
shame that
the
comes with it.
shame that comes with it and the worry about it.
Right, which it doesn't really, at the end of the day, right? At the end of our lives, it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah.
really matter how much money you had in your bank account back in 2023. Yeah.
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 So I like to give ourselves grace around money, and also give ourselves permission. This is a big one. This is something that we collectively are not doing until now. I want to give ourselves permission to educate ourselves
Mm.
around money. Because the truth is, this is not an idea unique to me, but I am willing to shout it from the mountaintops. From the mountaintops. Success leaves clues. So
I
there
love
are
that.
thousands upon thousands of people who have written books about how to manage money. They have been on podcasts. They have written, stories and plays, and, all kinds of ideas are being shared in the world about how better to manage our money. We don't have to invent the wheel here, right? We're not inventing fire on this topic. Success leaves clues. you know, Go to a bookstore, go to a used bookstore, go to a library, go to YouTube, you know, There's so much being shared out there.
And go to a coach. I mean, that's the other piece too. It's one of the things that got me to go into coaching as a coach, right? Because I was paralyzed, and I share something in my first book about how I had bankruptcy. Right, I sold my business, started another company. .com bust happened. Just shared it in the last podcast about the whole story of that, and I was that shame and guilt, and oh my gosh, and here I am about to become a coach. Oh, great, and but what I did was that I went to a coach to get through. Like, we don't have to do it alone. And I think that's the saddest part I see, is so many people think that they have to hold it on their shoulders and hold it alone. And you don't. You
Yeah.
don't.
You and I have a very similar path. I didn't have the bankruptcy, but I did feel paralyzed.
Mhm.
And I didn't even know 25 years ago when I hired my coach, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't part of the
Right. Same for
vocabulary
me.
or
Yeah.
conversation.
It
So
was
this
like, what, a
woman,
sports
yeah,
coach?
what
What?
is that?
Yeah.
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 This woman came up to me and she knew that I was really freaked out over money because we worked together. And she said, well, I'm a coach. And I said, what is that? I don't know what that is. And she said, well, let's have a session and figure it out. I'll show you. And we worked together every week for a year and a half.
Beautiful.
And I walked away from that completely debt free.
Wow.
Huge transformation for me because of our work together. So yes, 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 to finding a coach that supports you in that.
Beautiful. And the support is the big one. Big. So any other bright, shiny objects other than your beautiful book that are in the future for you that you would like to share with us?
Yes, absolutely. So my husband and I work together. We have worked together for 22 out of the 23 years that we've been married. And we're teaching different workshops. One of them is called Your Story, Your Legacy, a page to stage theatrical experience. So actors and non-actors come together in person or on Zoom for 8 weeks. And we call through CULL. We call through all of the different stories, all of the different magnificent moments you've had in your life, and pick one, and then create a scene around that, a monologue, a solo theater piece that the person presents at the end of 8 weeks here in San Miguel. They can present on Zoom or in person because we have a 25-seat theater at our property. So we just presented it 2 weeks ago, and it was magnificent. And the next course is coming up in June. So you can find that at elihans.com/classes. And so we're both actors, we're improvisers. My husband wrote and produced and played 25 characters in his show Out of the Blue recently. And one of the characters he plays is fear. And fear often starts by saying, what if, what if, what if, what if? So when we look at doubt, when we look at doubting ourselves, when we look at not trusting ourselves, he personifies that character in his musical Out of the Blue. So yeah, lots going on. I always have a lot of projects.
Lots of bright, shiny objects. Well, and you've thrown several domain names here, websites. And so I will be sure to put them in the show notes. Yeah. And so our listeners can have that. And any last thoughts before we say goodbye?
Yes. So what I invite in now for the listeners to close their eyes. And if it feels comfortable, to put a hand or two hands on your heart. Breathe in. Just know that you are doing a really great job. Regardless of the number in your bank account, regardless of the number in your credit card, just know that in this life, you are divine. You're a part of the divinity. And I give you permission, and Cheri, I'm going to speak for you. We give you permission to stop beating yourself up over a number. Breathe in the possibility that things can be different for you in the future. And if it feels okay, Allow a smile to come across your face. Make it as big as possible. Make it from ear to ear. And carry that forward with you today. You can open your eyes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so, so much. And I hope to see you this afternoon at Improv.
I look forward to it. Thank you. Thank you for our time together. Thank you, listener. We appreciate you.
We do. We do.